My people, now how una day? This one na Biafra Superstars Media, and I'm holding it down. I say may God bless Biafra, and may God bless His Excellency Nnamdi Kanu. May God bless His Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic in exile, His Excellency ESN Ekpa Simon and Njoku, for the job Simon is doing. Simon, I want to say we thank you. We appreciate you. We love you because we know in your hands Biafra is coming. In your hands Biafra is safe. And in your hands, when Biafra comes, the people of Biafra will rejoice. My fellow Biafrans, today I'll be formal on this one. I want us to listen to this interview granted by the man they call Kenneth Okonkwo. In this interview, I took it with a pinch of salt. Hence, I am tagging this one, naming a good dog or calling a good dog a bad name just to hang it. When you call a good dog a bad name just to hang it, that's the kind of sense you get from this interview. Because in one point, they're asking Kenneth Okonkwo his take on the release of Nnamdi Kanu. On the second hand, the interviewer is asking Kenneth Okonkwo, won't it be better for Nnamdi Kanu to remain in jail in order to have peace in the land of Biafra? She wanted him to weigh both options, keeping him in jail to get peace or releasing him without an uncertainty. This is the kind of question that a journalist posed on Kenneth Okonkwo. So I want you all to listen to his analysis, listen to the way he maneuvered his way in these questions, see the way he moved around vultures, and see the kind of different traps set for Kenneth Okonkwo. Also, this is why I'm telling you we must not skip to the loo of the media, the Nigerian media. If we make the mistake, if we make them to control the analysis, if we make them to control the story, to spin the story, they are good in spinning story. Now they are coming to say we are fighting for states. And Nyoma, Olu, and the rest of them. That's the new game they want to play. Now they want to use the case of Nnamdi Kanu to dangle as a carrot on our face. So I named this one calling a dog a bad name just to kill it. The good side and the bad side of a person. So the picture you are seeing of Nnamdi Kanu, it is showing the bad side that they are painting him and the good side that is really is. The bad side that the media, the Zoo media, Nigerian government, they try to paint him to be a monster. But the other side is the man we really know and love. Fellow Biafrans, I want you to listen to this analysis. Then I'll come back with a very formal show with myself and the Biafran golden child. Thank you. Listen.
So let's start, with the Southeast Governors meeting. What are your thoughts on their resolve to meet with President Bola Tinubu over Nnamdi Kanu's predicament?
Well, basically, political issues and political prisoners have always been treated in a very different way from the ordinary criminals on the road. When you are in government, you have to display a lot of wisdom in handling political issues. I give you an example. United States had already cornered Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks founder, who they accused of leaking some classified document that embarrassed United States. But they also realized that they had to make a balance between free speech, between the freedom of journalists, and trying to bring a journalist to trial. They know that Russia is holding some of their citizens who are journalists, and they are trying to bring espionage charge against them. Knowing this, they know that even if they bring this man to the United States, they will still, face some backlash. They now went through wisdom and did a plea bargain and released this man from jail and allowed him to get back to Australia. Nnamdi Kanu has not done anything that other people from other zones have not done. We know about Sunday Igboho, of the Yoruba nation agitator. We know of the Boko Haram people that say they want a different country where Western education is an abomination. These people have been released. Not just that they have been released. In the case of Boko Haram, they've been re-assimilated to the society, given plum jobs, even in our military. They've been given money and been resuscitated, reconciled, and rehabilitated. Why is Nnamdi Kanu's case different? There is an ethnic and some unnecessary bias that is keeping that man in jail. The government should be wise enough to release this man. You can use the Julian Assange option. If you don't want to say you are losing face, you can release him conditionally. You can release him unconditionally. As a lawyer, I've watched the legal issues very clearly. And I saw that even in the courts, from the High Court to the Supreme Court, there are discordant tones amongst them. Even in the issue of bail, some of the tier of the courts are granted him bail. Even in the issue of the charges, some tier of the court had quashed all the charges. So you can see that the government has a lot of places it can stand to release the young man and bring peace to the southeast. He is now more like a political prisoner. I tell you something, the longer Nnamdi Kanu is in prison, the taller he becomes, and the shorter the government becomes. They should take the intelligent way out of this and release him like they did to other people. Rehabilitate him and reconcile him as they are reconciling Southeast completely to the nation.
I'm glad you brought up that Julian Assange case because analysts have been looking into the similarities between these two cases. And what stuck out with me majorly is the fact that Nnamdi Kanu fled bail back in 2017, much like Julian Assange. But what it seems right now is it's more of a political situation with Nnamdi Kanu. With Julian Assange, it seemed that the potentness or the pungentness of his crimes seemed to deteriorate as the world grew and as time went on and more leaks like this happened. In the case of Nnamdi Kanu, some could argue that him staying in jail, of course it's unfortunate, but him being released would also lead to some unintended consequences in terms of an escalation of violence. This is allegedly, etc., and the reigniting of his followers who seem to be scattered all over the world and seem to be a bit of a thorn in the flesh of individuals who have been suffering the sit-at-home orders and all the other violence that has come about. How will they be able to balance those two equations of keeping him in jail, which is worse, keeping him in jail or letting him out, and potential violence escalating? What are your thoughts on that?
My thought is this. I brought the Julian Assange issue just to tell you that the government can use wisdom and bring about situation where they will tell him, you've spent so and so time in detention. Let us count it for you as any punitive measure for whatever they may say he had done. Allow him to plea to any minor offense that will suit that number of times he has already stayed and release him. That's why I brought the Julian Assange. That's wisdom. Then secondly, you can release him conditionally and tell him, look, this will bring crisis if we release you. No responsible government will say, let us release you when we have not gotten a commitment from you that you will no longer go along this line. The young man had said that he is willing to negotiate, that he is willing to talk. So you talk to him, that is releasing him conditionally. Then the third one is releasing him unconditionally. So you have a choice, but the three of them will land in releasing him. The most important thing is that the government checks the cost-benefit analysis in whatever it is doing. And I can tell you that the benefit of releasing him if you can make him to get commitment on what you want him to do after releasing him, will be better than keeping him. Because keeping him has not solved the security situation in the southeast. It has not stopped the agitation. As a matter of fact, it is making even the agitation to now be multifaceted, to now be unknown. That's why you hear the unknown gunmen. So it's more difficult to tackle. So releasing him, in my own opinion, will be better off now than keeping him. The benefit of releasing him will be better than the cost. So you negotiate with him, know the best option, and release him.
Now, Mr. Okonkwo is talking about the issue of security. The governor has also resolved to tackle insecurity in the southeast. But that's a bit vague when we consider what's been happening in that region over the years. So what measures would you advise must be taken by the governors, the federal government, to tackle insecurity in southeast Nigeria?
I've always said, I'm sorry to say it, that the governors can only make promises, but they do not have what it takes to enforce their promises.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Biafra Superstars Media. Today, I wish to present to you a man who saw the war firsthand. A man who, as a child, he went through Kwashoko. A man who, as a child, when the Red Cross gave them soup, when they gave them the Gare Gabon and soup, this child was taking the food to his parents in the bushes. When he met the Nigerian soldiers, take the soup off him, drank the soup in his presence, and gave him the Gare to take to his family in the bush. A man whose father was killed during the war. A man whose mother and sister met their demise during the war. A man who saw in first hand people losing fingers. Those they suspect they were Biafran soldiers. If you're a young child, from the age of 16 upwards, 3 of your fingers will be cut off. The one they call the trigger finger will be chopped off. That way they grant you and make you become useless in life. A man who saw all this, a man who himself went through Kwashoko, until this day, he is going through the trauma of seeing the Biafran war. Today, this afternoon, tonight, I wish to present to you all a man I have come to love, a man I appreciate, and a man I shall be sharing this platform with going forward. I present to you the Biafran golden child. I call this man the Biafran golden child because he was there during the Biafran war. He was a child during the Biafran war. He was one of those who had Kwashoko during the Biafran war. He was somebody that ate rat for protein during the Biafran war. And he's a man who is here to give the account, to speak on our leader, Nnamdi Kanu, on the continuous incarceration of our leader, Nnamdi Kanu. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Biafran golden child, the real Biafran golden child. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, dear listeners. I'm happy to once again be in a position to make this audio courtesy of Biafra Superstar Media. Please grant me your audience. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. An Igbo proverb says, a person who is denied by others cannot deny himself or herself. Yes. On June 19, 2024, Onyendo Mazen Nnamdi Kanu made an appearance in the zoo court and publicly stated that he is fighting for the good of humanity, especially for the African people. Quote, "We are fighting for freedom. We want people to be free," he said. He reiterated that he's not just fighting for Biafra, but also for the common good of Africa. The common enemy has been identified. The common enemy of, Nigeria, yes, of the Biafra land has been identified. George Orwell called it Animal Farm. Our leader, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu called it the zoo. Chinua Achebe called it, our veteran writer and one-time Biafran ambassador, Chinua Achebe, calls it things fall apart. Yes, these are different names for a common enemy, the British. There are so many reasons why the Igbos are hated in Nigeria, but the British set the ball rolling. Yes. Yeah, some people say why the Igbos are hated is because the Igbo standard of excellence is primarily represented in business and academic achievement. Others argue that the Igbos are hated because they are the richest tribe in Nigeria, if not in the West African regions as a whole. Yes, but the most invisible hate, the most invisible hate group against the Biafra movement is the British. Yes, the British. And now we know why our Prime Minister, the ever-trusted and revered man, Simon Ekpa, chose the month of December as our Liberation Day. Yes, the Anglo-Irish white people went through hell with the British government before they finally declared their independence on December 6th, 1921. The Anglo-Irish people were united and they spoke with one voice. They are a free nation today. Yes, a free nation today. A requiem mass is scheduled on December 2nd, 2024 for Nigeria. Yes. Simon Ekpa, of course, he's a Finnish citizen and, he knows the history of the Irish people and he knows that their history and especially their domination by the British then and all the sufferings and frustrations they went through is akin with what is happening in Biafra land now in our eastern region. Yes, that's why he chose December 2nd, 2024 as the day he's declaring the Biafran Republic. So let's go on. Yes. Unbeknownst to the world is the fact that we have a clandestine affair with the British. That's why today some foreign nationals are puzzled when they hear us accuse the British government of hankering to impoverish the people of Biafra. But their wicked plan has backfired. Today, the Kingdom of Britain, which used to be known as the Great Britain, is no more. Her wicked offspring, Nigeria, that it aided and abetted in dealing with the Biafrans during 1967-1970, has also been dealt with by the same catastrophic fate. Yes, currently the latter is on life support. Yes, Nigeria is on life support. Yeah, people must reap what they sow. Yes, yeah. Because the British behavior is of paradoxical nature, that's to say that it gives you a cut and at the same time it blows the wound to decrease the pain, to make you believe that it cares. Yes, that's Things Fall Apart. Things Fall Apart is a good example of how much the British hated Biafra with a passion. A very good case study is that of our leader's perpetual detention in Nigeria. Onyendo Nnamdi Kanu is a citizen of Britain who was extraordinarily renditioned back to the zoo called Nigeria. Even after Nnamdi Kanu has been discharged and acquitted of all charges against him, he is still being illegally detained with all forms of delayed tactics. Now, that's the greatest travesty of justice ever known to mankind. Don't be fooled. When a Biafran becomes a British citizen, don't be fooled because he's a British citizen. Don't be fooled by her fiendish smile, because there's always a hidden agenda behind the smile. The answer to why the British hate Biafra is not far-fetched. The hidden hatred dates back to the fight for independence and the role played by our notable Igbos of our past, starting from the time of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, you know. And then finally, other notable Igbos like Mbano Ojike, who fought hard to ensure that the British was expelled out of Nigeria. The British was seen as a bully of all humankind. She loved being in control, and her obsession to control the world was such that she would trample on anyone's rights to achieve what she wanted. The end justifies the means was her mantra. The British couldn't stand any individual or any group of people with a mind of their own. The Igbo tradition is a contrast to other African cultures, and when the British met her match, she vowed to suppress and to cow the Igbo people into submission. The Biafra people were not cowards, and they stood their ground. While other tribes genuflected before the royal family, the Biafra people stood still, facing them as equals, because the Igbo man has no king, no bully as a leader, bows to nobody except God. They couldn't submit themselves to any human domination or manipulation. The Igbo behavior ran shivers down the spine of the British government. Yes. And that was where the hatred developed from. Said, oh, these people, you think you are too smart? We are going to make sure we frustrate this smartness. We'll put you where you belong. That was what the British promised to do to the Igbo people. Those who hate people for no reason other than their own personal detestation will destroy themselves. Yes. Think about the Turkish lawmaker who said that Israel will suffer the wrath of God. God immediately took revenge while he was still speaking. We all know what happened to him. The Prime Minister of Israel, our ancestral brother, once mentioned Biafra struggles in one of his speeches and has our conflict on his radar. Like our ancestors of Israel, we are surrounded by enemies and we must guard our lives at all times. God has given us our own Joshua in the person of our Prime Minister, Simon Ekpa. Knowing the pedigree of our people, we must stand united to confront our enemies, both foreign and domestic. United we stand, divided we fall. We must all put all our differences aside, because those who want us dead are driving a wedge between us and disorganizing our unity. We want our leader out of the dungeon of the DSS. We must support Simon Ekpa. A saying goes, you cannot resemble what has been used to disparage you. All the Northerners speak with one voice, and all the Southwesterners speak with one voice. But the Southeasterners and the South don't. The time is now to speak with one voice, not in dissimilar voices. By the grace of God, our Prime Minister, Simon Ekpa, will declare the restoration of Biafra on December 2nd, 2024, and with a resounding victory we will never forget. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, our very good brother. The Biafran Golden Child will say a big thank you. Thank you for the submission. All I want to say at this point, my people, is this. Our leader, Mazi Simon Ekpa, told the Zoo government, he told Nigeria that we shall make holding Nnamdi Kanu more expensive than releasing him. He proclaimed live on air that the Biafra Republic government in exile, with our actions and inactions, we shall make the kidnapping and continuous holding of Nnamdi Kanu more expensive than releasing him. Today, I want to declare that the prophecy of our Prime Minister has come to pass. Because all over the whole social media, all over the airways, what you hear about is the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Those who kept quiet for the past 3 years, those who saw our leader languish in the hands of the DSS for the past 3 years, those who saw even what their judiciary was doing. The woman they called Justice Binta Nyako, you saw the way she was fidgeting, dilly-dallying, shilly-shallying, perambulating, wasting the time of our leader Nnamdi Kanu, making the pronouncement to the DSS to give him access to his clothing. And when she's being rebuked by the DSS, she does nothing about it. Nobody is being reprimanded. Our leader was left in the hands of this enemy for 3 years. And it was all sweet. People were happy. They were clamoring for him to remain in jail for life. The then AGF, Malami, came out and made a broadcast in his native language. Last time I heard the official language of that zoo called Nigeria was English. But suddenly the Attorney General of the Federation of that zoo called Nigeria was making a broadcast in his native language, describing how they so-called intercepted Nnamdi Kanu and brought him to Nigeria in his own native language, a so-called Attorney General. They were embellishing the facts. They thought Biafra was dead. They thought kidnapping just one man meant the end of Biafra. They assumed that wasting those billions, conniving with those they call the DOS, those who were close to Nnamdi Kanu, they assumed that the moment they pay him off to sell out our leader, that was the end of Biafra. Unknown to them that was a man before our leader was kidnapped. There was a man he told the 80 million Biafrans to listen to. There was a man he told us to share his videos. There was a man he told us was coming with a new dimension. A dimension higher than the dimension that our leader, Nnamdi Kanu, was operating on. They never knew because they assumed that Nnamdi Kanu was the Alpha and Omega of Biafra. They've assumed that the weight of Biafra lies on the back of Oyendo. And once he's kidnapped, that was the end of Biafra. Even a so-called politician from the so-called Southeast, during a campaign, he was asked a question. And he went as far as saying that Biafra is dead. Biafra died 80 or 50 years ago. That man, what he said was despicable. They assumed kidnapping Nnamdi Kanu was the end of Biafra. But I've got news for them. Because in our leader, Mazi Simon Ekpa, our prime minister, a man who was delegated to do the job he's doing, a man who has the ears, the mind of the people, a man who was assigned by the people, a man who was given a delegated responsibility to go out there, form a government, form a cabinet, come with policies, come with a framework that will get us Biafra in the absence of Oyendo Nnamdi Kanu. And so far, so good. The journey has been good. And by the grace of God, God willing, on the 2nd of December, oh Lord have mercy, the world will hear about Biafra. The world will hear about the rebirth of Biafra. God willing, from the 2nd of December, they can hold Nnamdi Kanu, but they cannot hold Biafra. They can kidnap Nnamdi Kanu, but they cannot kidnap Biafra. They can try to stop Nnamdi Kanu, but they can never stop Biafra. Let them do what they want to do. Allow the dead to bury the dead. Give what belongs to Caesar, and to God, to God. This is the best time you can interpret such. Allow Nigerians to do what they want to do, while we, the Biafrans, we handle our own business. We ain't gonna fidget. We will not be distracted by this news about the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Let them do what they want to do. All we know, according to your own court, they said Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer. According to your own court, they said he should be released. According to your own court, he was discharged. And they said no case should be brought on our leader Nnamdi Kanu. So allow the zoo to be the zoo. Let the dead bury the dead. As for me and my people, we shall continue to keep our eyes on the rising sun. As for me and my people, we shall keep the focus on Biafra. As for me and my people, we shall keep on fighting towards the restoration of Biafra. As for me and my people, we shall show all our solidarity to our Prime Minister, His Excellency, Mazi Ekpa Simon Njoku. As for me and my people, it's all about Biafra. As for me and my people, we are getting ready to march side by side, shoulder to shoulder with our leader, Mazi Simon Ekpa. As for me and my people, the topic should be all about the 2nd of December. As for me and my people, it's all about discussing with the lobbies we have in America, the two great men, Jim Moran and the other good guy, Elias Geresulis. They are the ones to discuss in terms of diplomacy, but the days of dialoguing is done. We dialoguing with Nigeria is done. End of discussion. We are moving towards Biafra, and God willing, from the 2nd of December, we shall be in Biafra. From me, from here, for now, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I remain yours truly, Biafra, Superstars Media. God bless you. Yeah, check me out. Superstars Media. Lord Logan, Bloomington, Lord Logan, and it's Wild Flora Show. 1914 amalgamation is what we dying for. 3 nations to 1 nation, ever since annihilation. Nepotism is nonsense. You and you, clap your hands. Biafra gonna come, clap your hands. Biafra, Oduduwa, we're free now. Freedom is gonna come, we're free now. Yeah.